I talked at length on this podcast about the pressure on the Milwaukee Bucks to win it all this season. Everyone knows that Giannis is coming up on the end of his contract. He's signed to Milwaukee through next season. And I highly doubt he signs the Supermax extension that he will be offered by the Bucks this offseason. The only way the Bucks have a glimmer of hope, and it is a small, microscopic glimmer. The only way the Bucks have a glimmer of hope of keeping Giannis in Milwaukee is if they prove that they are a legitimate title contender. Making the Eastern Conference Finals is not enough. Been there, done that. I don't think just making it to the NBA Finals is enough. It is title or bust for the Milwaukee Bucks this season. The entirety of the 2019-2020 season, Giannis and the Bucks have been the clear favorite to win the Eastern Conference. And many thought they would win it with ease. Kawhi Leonard, no longer in Toronto, so the Raptors aren't all that big of a threat to Milwaukee. The Celtics are good. They're good. They might give Milwaukee a run for their money. The Sixers can't win on the fucking road. Not to mention the fact that they were on the verge of implosion before the league was shut down. My point is, the Eastern Conference belonged to Milwaukee. The shutdown of the NBA season due to the coronavirus pandemic is having some unintended consequences on the title hopes of Giannis and the Bucks. The Brooklyn Nets signed Kevin Durant last offseason, fully knowing that he would be unavailable the entire season. They signed him fully knowing that he was coming off of a torn Achilles, the worst type of injury an NBA player can get. But with the delay in the NBA season, the 2.5, 3, 4 month break, however long it's going to be, and with the season restarting on July 31st, Kevin Durant could actually return and play in the playoffs with Brooklyn. Not only KD, but Kyrie Irving could also return from his injury. For the first time this season, the Nets would have a 100% fully healthy roster. I bet the Nets regret firing Kenny Atkinson now. I said earlier this year when they fired him that it was unjustified. He was never given a chance to see what he could do with two superstar players in the lineup. The guy had just taken a group of role players to the playoffs last season. Instead, the Nets have interim coach Jacques Vaughn on the sidelines, an unproven coach who failed miserably in Orlando. On paper, a Nets roster with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving is a huge threat to the championship aspirations in Milwaukee. The Bucks don't have a guy on the roster that can guard Kevin Durant. Hell, there's not a team in the NBA that has someone that can guard KD. Before he injured his Achilles anyway. We have seen what Achilles injuries can do to the career of an NBA player in the past. Very, very, very few are ever the same player coming out of that type of injury. It is the most devastating injury for an NBA player. Look what's happened to DeMarcus Cousins since he tore his Achilles in January 2018. He has barely touched the court since. I think he's played in 30 games. Brooklyn's currently the 7th seed in the Eastern Conference. If the playoffs started today, they'd match up with Toronto in the first round. If they made it past the Raptors, they'd get the winner of the Sixers Celtics in the second round, which would be a much easier road to the Eastern Conference Finals than if they were the 8th seed, had to open up the playoffs against Milwaukee. So with the 8-game regular season starting July 31st, it is critical for Brooklyn to hold on to that 7th spot. They only have a half-game lead over Orlando. The question the Nets are going to have to answer is it really worth it for Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving to return for this potential playoff run in Brooklyn? There are some positives with them returning. The Nets' title window is short with both KD and Kyrie. This season was always considered a lost season going into it. And Brooklyn only has KD under contract for 3 more years. So the Nets could essentially salvage a lost season if KD and Kyrie return. Both KD and Kyrie have been injured most of all season. They'll be rusty coming back. They have no shot at winning the title. That's what people will say. But every team in the NBA is going to be rusty coming back. They've all been off since mid-March, so Brooklyn would be in the same position as everyone else. That's one of the reasons Adam Silver came up with an 8-game regular season before the playoffs, to shake the rust off everyone and get everyone back into game shape. The best reason for Kevin Durant and Kyrie to finish out the regular season in the playoffs is so the Nets can see exactly what they have going into next season. It will give them a chance to gel, get used to playing with each other, feel each other out. They can also see what type of players they'll need to add in the offseason to make a real championship run next season. I know on paper that the Nets could challenge Milwaukee, maybe even win the Eastern Conference. On paper. But the Nets don't have a shot at winning the title this year. They don't have a shot at winning the Eastern Conference. Hell, they don't even have a fucking coach. The negatives of Kevin Durant and Kyrie returning far outweigh the positives. I know Jacques Vaughn is itching for them to return so he could possibly have a chance to become the head coach in Brooklyn next season. But I don't think that's going to happen either way. Like I said a second ago, you don't want to rush a player back from an Achilles injury. I mentioned DeMarcus Cousins. He tore his Achilles at 27, returned the following January in Golden State. Even though it had been a full year since the injury, a lot of people thought that he was rushing his return. And the results on the court proved those people right. He was down in every statistical metric. Then in the first round of the playoffs, what happened? Tears his quad. Then last summer, after he signed with the Lakers, tore his ACL before the season began. Who the fuck knows if DeMarcus Cousins will ever play in the NBA again? Kevin Durant is 31 years old. There is absolutely no reason to rush him back from this injury. The Nets have zero chance at winning the title this year. Save both him and Kyrie Irving for next season. The Nets can bolster the roster this offseason. Giannis will probably be out of the Eastern Conference. And Brooklyn would be the favorite to win the East next year. Because make no mistake, next season is the most important season in the history of the franchise in Brooklyn. It'll be the first time in the history of the franchise that they will be legitimate title contenders. Well, what about the two back-to-back years they went to the finals in 01 and 02? They weren't legit contenders those 2 years. No one expected them to beat the Lakers and the Spurs in the finals. The Eastern Conference back then was a pile of dog shit. The Nets had one star player, Jason Kidd. That was it. Jason Kidd, a bunch of role players. It was a similar situation that the Sixers found themselves in a couple of years before. Allen Iverson and a roster of scrubs versus Shaq and Kobe in the Lakers. He'd have a fucking chance. And neither did Jason Kidd and the Nets. So with Brooklyn being legit contenders next year, with next year being the biggest season in the history of the franchise, why would you risk further injury to Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving on a playoff run this year that is not going to be an appearance in the NBA Finals, probably wouldn't even be an appearance in the Eastern Conference Finals? I mentioned earlier that all teams would be rusty coming back, but it is a risky proposition to bring KD and Kyrie back since both are returning from injury, especially coming back from that Achilles injury. Will KD be able to play 30, 35 minutes a game, sometimes 38 minutes a game in the playoffs? No! DeMarcus Cousins, when he returned from his Achilles, went from averaging 36 minutes a game to 26 minutes a game. Kevin Durant would not have a full summer, a full training camp, a full preseason like he normally would. Professional athletes, it is all about a schedule, all about a routine. And that is impossible to build in this short amount of time. Durant has waited this long to return. It's been about a year since he tore his Achilles. It is not going to hurt him to wait until December to start playing again. There's just no point in rushing it back. The Nets would need to secure the 7th seed to have any chance of making a deep playoff run this year. And with being only a half a game ahead of Orlando with an 8-game regular season, I don't think it gives KD and Kyrie enough time to get back to the superstar level of play that we're accustomed to seeing from them. If they drop to the 8th seed, or worse, drop out of the playoffs altogether, then you just wasted their return and risked injuring them further for absolutely nothing. All right, that's all for today. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button for me. Click that notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Appreciate you guys that have already done so. Leave me a comment in the section below. Do you think it's worth it for Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving to return for a potential playoff run this season? Or is it too risky? Should the Nets hold off until next season? Let me know your thoughts. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. If you have any questions, email them to btlkc84@gmail.com. I will see you guys next time.